This week on Lemon's Car Spotting.
Hey everybody, it is Eric, it is Nick, it is Lemon's Car Spotting. We're going to talk about some crappy cars starting now.
Oh, and when you said cars, we meant cars, plural. And not only cars, but Fieros. This is one of those things, like the hoarder, like the kind of car that the hoarder hoards.
Yeah.
And if you were to make a list of the most hoarded cars, the Fiero would certainly be one of them, but I feel like they all share a commonality of like being slightly misunderstood. Mm-hmm. In their minds, misunderstood, but in reality is just like a slightly worse version of the other car that you should have bought. Like, for example, you don't see a whole yard full of Toyota MR2s.
Right.
Because those cars, hey, that's a pretty good car. You're just going to like get one and drive it around. Whereas Fieros, they don't work so good, but then it sparks something in the hoarder that says, I must get all of the Fieros. But I will say, on a more positive note, there's enough of a Fiero enthusiast community where if this guy is selling parts off of these things, which I feel like is a 50-50 proposition at best, because that's the thing about hoarders, like none of this is for sale.
Yeah.
This guy could potentially be a good resource for the Fiero enthusiast community. But otherwise, it's a weird horde of Fieros.
Yeah. I mean, this goes two ways. This is either an unofficial Fiero junkyard and it's a guy dealing parts, which more power to him. That's great. Or it is, these are my Fiero parts for my good Fieros. And it's usually one of two. I would say this guy's probably dealing parts. One of the interesting things to point out, if you can blow the image up again, is, it's pretty rare that you get a chance to see, the Fiero that everybody wants compared to the other one, which is to say the 88. I got to say, the Fiero people are right? ? If you look, especially on the right side, you've got the one with the white wheels on it. That's an 88. And it is kind of, just to the right of it in the screen is the earlier one. Yeah. And the 88s look a lot better. I don't know that they're, fundamentally that much better of a car, but aesthetically, I think they got it right in 88, which makes it almost a shame that they axed it after that year.
I am torn because it really is like the evolution is not dissimilar from the evolution of the Lamborghini Countach, where the first one really shows the purity of the design they were going for, and then they just got more and more sort of accoutrement as the years went on, and it sort of took away from that purity. Yeah, you could make the same argument for the Fiero, but I also think that you're right that the early one, when parked next to the later 88 GT, just looks like real frumpy. And, it's got an Iron Duke in it just by looking at it, So I don't know. I'm kind of Fiero connoisseurs in the comments. Which is your favorite Fiero and why?
Yeah, I will say what I think is probably an 84 and 85 on the steel wheels in the foreground looks like an 84 Corvette that got left in the dryer too long.
Yeah. That's right. Although if you were to actually put an 84 Corvette into a dryer and leave it in too long, it would explode into a fireball. Just from the heat and the glue. Buddy. It's an Austin I don't know my Austins. A40, A30?
A30 in the comments. But man, obviously a British car enthusiast, as there is a bigger version behind it. Everything about it is hilarious to look at on its own. Like if you imagine this in monochrome, that is a funny looking car. And it always is, because it is the clown car version of like a 1947 Plymouth, basically. Seeing it next to a modern Audi SUV, I think it is. Volkswagen, whatever.
Yeah, it looks based on the Accord, it looks like a Q5 e-tron plug-in hybrid.
Yeah. That is a hilarious contradiction there, contrast. But the best part of this car is that they gave it a two-tone paint job that ostensibly follows some contours, but from this view, just looks like they didn't look at the car while they were painting it, and it looks completely off.
Well, yeah, I mean, the proportions on this thing are incredible. Yeah. Like, did they not know that it was hilarious when they were making it? Like, did they do this with a straight face? We can't even see the front. Like, it has a comical little grill. I mean, it just looks like the most Toontown, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride thing that can't possibly be a real car that was sold to real people, but it was. And you see these things racing in vintage races in the UK.
Yeah.
So, it's just, it's wild. And, going back to the fact that it's parked next to this Audi, it both shows the progress we've made and also what we've lost over the years.
There you go.
The Audi is very German and sleek, and it'll go with your $700 designer jeans that have the perfectly worn patina where your iPhone goes. I don't know that that's an aesthetic improvement over the clown car. I mean, look at it. It's amazing.
Yeah. To the point of the field full of A30s racing at Goodwood, one of the greatest motorsports events I've ever watched.
Yes.
Go watch that when we're done here.
What's that called? It's called Queen Anne's Trophy or something.
They have like a bunch of different trophies, and they're different every year. So that particular year it was, the Queen Anne's Cup or whatever it was, a field full of 39 A30s racing each other.
And the thing about vintage racing in the UK is they go for it.
Oh yeah.
And especially at Goodwood, it's often the case where the car owner will hire some current professional touring car driver, and they're just elbows out, full drift, occasionally riding off an Austin A40 in a spectacular high-speed wreck. I don't know. Nothing not to like about that car. We need more of them in the States. So if you're the type of person that brings cars over from overseas, set up a crate of these. You can fit more in there.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy. Wow. Is this yours or mine? I've lost track.
I think it's you can take the first comments on it.
Okay. Well, I have no idea what this is. It's giant and it's American. The proportions are kind of off in the same way that the Austin's proportions were off, but the end result is not funny and cute and bring a smile to your face. The result is, oh Lord. It's terrifying. All right, I'm cheating and reading the comments. It says it's a Hudson of some variety. Well, okay.
Yeah.
I know nothing about Hudsons. The most famous Hudson is the Hudson Hornet. This is obviously earlier than that. I don't know how much earlier. Is this like?
It's got to be barely pre-war, like 1940.
I was going to say like the first thing post-war, but yeah, it's in that. It's sort of in that that range. Probably a gigantic flathead. I don't know much about cars of this era, let alone a Hudson.
Same, but it's definitely worth talking about. As you pointed out, like, boy, it has all of the things, but none of them seem to be working together as far as the design goes. All these streamlined pieces, but, perhaps oddly applied, which I think is kind of the general consensus on Hudson outside of the Hornet, is it was always kind of a weird car builder. I will say this would look amazing on a Lemons racetrack with whatever engine you put in it. I would guess there is ample room for whatever you want to put in it.
How many straight 8s have we had in Lemons? One?
One. Yeah, Oldsmobile.
The Olds at MSR a few years ago. Yeah. We need more straight 8s in Lemons. And this thing's got so much room. Build yourself a homemade V16.
There you go.
You know? Boy.
Struggling with things to say about it. I will say that Hudson also built their economy brand of perhaps the greatest name in American car making history, which is the Terraplane.
Yes.
A Lemons Terraplane would be amazing.
Right.
Well.
That's it. Judge Phil found an old Hudson Terraplane in the pick and pull of all places. And he said, yeah, it still's got the valve cover that says Terraplane. And, you know, Phil is the kind of guy who takes every dash clock out of every Chrysler K car in the junkyard. And we're like, well, yeah, did you get the valve cover that says Terraplane? Oh, yeah, I guess I should go back and get it. Which he did. So,
to be fair, the valve cover on a Terraplane straight 8 probably weighs about 190 pounds.
Yeah, and was attached with like 38 bolts. So I get it, but and you know, all's well that ends well. It's on his garage wall. So yeah. All right. Next up.
Right. Well,
speaking of junkyards,
Mopars. There's at least one Mopar there.
So
it's an Aspen on the left or a Volare.
Yeah,
I'm not sure which.
And it's some kind of sporty version because it's got the louvers over the rear quarter window.
Yeah, I don't know what that is on the right. It looks Maverick-y, but maybe not.
It looks, well, it's a big coupe based on the shape of the rear window.
Oh, it's like a Dart. This is the before and after, actually, if you think about it, because I just said the name of it. Crap. Aspen. Yeah. So the Aspen replaced the C-body, which was the Dart. So even if these are Plymouth and Dodge, it doesn't really matter. The design was kind of the same. And if you look at it, like it's kind of a good transition, which is uncharacteristic for the Malaise era. Like, you know, usually it was like, oh man, look at what they did to that thing when they did the redesign. But it kind of works. Yeah, on the Volare / Aspen.
Yeah, and
it was a horrible car that rusted on the showroom floor, so there is that.
There's that, but you know, under the hood, you had a slant 6 or a 318 probably, which is you know fine, relatively speaking.
Right.
So, well, maybe not actually a junkyard. Maybe somebody's backyard. Now that I'm looking closer at it,
yeah, I think
looks like a farm implement. Is that a plow that you tow behind something?
It is. It's an old horse-drawn plow. Yeah. It's definitely on a farm. I feel like Plymouth, they made a Volare Roadrunner for a year. Am I imagining that?
I can picture maybe. I don't know. Tell us in the comments what the various option packages were on the mid-70s Aspen / Ferrari. The Aspen / Volare.
Yeah, well, there's your theme right there for Volare.
Yeah,
the Ferrari Volare.
You can make Volare La Volare.
Yeah,
instead of La Ferrari. All right, next up. Oh man.
Well, there it is. I don't know. That joke tells itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's got kind of I don't know what's happening. I mean, you know, I was thinking initially like, oh yeah, it's a stolen Mustang and, you know, being squirreled away to be sold for scrap or whatever. But like, you know, what kind of car thief leaves the evidence in plain view like this? Yeah, I mean, you know, this is a way to get a modern Mustang for Lemon's money. I'm gonna assume that the engine is gone, so this is your opportunity to put in, you know, a 60s Ford straight 6 or a Pinto motor or something to get yourself into Class C. Kind of a blank slate.
There you go. Bam.
All right, last car for the week. Oh what?
Yes.
Wow.
This one comes from Jeff Stobbs, who runs our Lemons rallies, who spotted this in Verona, Wisconsin.
Holy moly.
I think it's an Econoline, but it might be an A100.
No, it's a Corvair, baby.
Oh, damn. Again, I'm not good at my forward control vans, but
well, it's got the vents in the back, which are, totally adequate cooling for the rear engine.
Well, this is obviously the greatest thing that's ever been built.
Yes.
I don't know. No notes. Everything here is perfect.
Yep. Perfect as is.
Just admire that thing. Yeah.
I believe you've got the hooptiest for this week.
Well, I mean, it would be really easy. Well, no, there are no easy ones this week now, are there? We've got a Mustang in a dumpster. We have 270s Plymouths. We have a farm full of Fieros. Boy, I think those are my leading contenders. There are certain things that stop you in your tracks when you're driving along. Jeff and I have noticed this on a rally. The kind of thing that I would just turn around and go back and see, definitely a farmyard completely filled with Fieros. Yeah, there it is. It's the American dream right there.
We always talk about every car person has this problem. Because you've got on average between 3 and 5 cars, and at least 2 of them don't work. I mean, that's kind of a medium level to be at for an average car person. What if you had 60 cars and none of them worked? And that's what we're looking at here. So yeah, that's pretty hoopty, I will say.
Yeah. I mean, you could put together at least 2 running Fieros out of that.
Yeah. Well, that would be a great junkyard challenge. Like, let a Lemons team into this yard, and with nothing, you can't even get a battery or fuel. Could you make a running car? And I bet you could. I bet you could figure out a way.
Yeah.
Well, for the Lemons build, I would really love to see Austin A40 and Lemons, but I think it might not make our wheelbase minimum, which is 82 inches. Somebody look it up. If it meets the minimum, then there you go. Bring it. I actually kind of an under the radar pick. That Aspen with the louvers, put some big old steel wheels, raise white letters. That's a cool look, sort of the NASCAR-ish period look. But if this vehicle was racing on a road course as is, I mean, we could just retire. It would be the greatest thing ever. Our purpose in life would be completely fulfilled. I can't say anything more about it. And the best thing is, you could go and find this car or get a Corvair van and do it. That would be the hard way to do it. The easy way to do it is just take a picture of this front end, put it on your Civic, put it on your E36. Yep. All of a sudden, you've made everybody happy.
Yeah, this could literally be on any car. I mean, and that's the good part, obviously, is the front 1.5 feet of it, or 3 feet, or whatever. Make it happen. By the way, the A30 not legal for Lemons.
Well, that's very sad.
Yeah.
All right. Well, your mission is clear. If you can do it with a van, or a Corvair van in particular, you would win all of the awards. But if you do this to spice up your otherwise boring Lemons Miata, then you'll get cool points with us as well for that. So until next week, keep finding the cars. We'll keep talking about them.
That's right. Race every week like it's Shark Week.